let's start. So I have divided this period into 14 categories. First we have the overview, support, some key characters, and the results at the end. So as always, make sure to watch the video because I give more information beyond what is presented on each slide. And of course, enjoy the video. Alright, let's start with an overview. The Protestant Reformation was a religious movement in the 16th century in Western Europe that aimed to reform the Roman Catholic Church by protesting against its practices. It resulted in the establishment of various Protestant denominations and had a profound impact on the religious, social, and political landscape of Europe. The movement arose from centuries of political and social grievances against the Church, which had grown into a powerful institution that rivaled state governments in influence, and was further fueled by the changes brought on by the Renaissance. And we have an entire video about that as well. So the Protestant Reformation was a movement against the Roman Catholic Church, which was a dominant form of Christianity in Europe during the Renaissance. The Church was very powerful. In fact, it owned 1/3 of Europe's land and held considerable political power. The Pope was a wealthy and powerful figure who exerted a significant influence, and religion and government were closely tied together, with the Church controlling much of European society. Even European kings had to comply with the Church, or face excommunication. So you just heard me say the word excommunication. What does that mean? So excommunication prevented people or entire countries from receiving sacraments or rituals. Basically, getting excommunicated meant not being allowed to practice religion. And examples of sacraments and rituals include baptism, Lord's Supper, penance, confirmation, matrimony, and holy orders. Alright, section 1.2, support. So, in order for this movement to gain traction, we need support. And people supported the Protestant Reformation for different reasons. Number one, it was an answer to the corruption of the Roman Catholic Church. Specifically, there are 4 main contentions with this. A, priests and bishops were no longer spiritual. B, the Pope was too involved in politics and not attentive enough to religion. C, the Church had become too affluent. And D, the Church was selling indulgences. And there's another reason, specifically for German princes. They saw it as a way to get rid of the rule of the Roman Catholic Church and the Holy Roman Emperor. And the third reason, Henry VIII used it as an excuse to seize church property and gain considerable wealth. So, you might be wondering, the Church was selling indulgences, but what is an indulgence? So the Roman Catholic Church sold indulgences, which was a remission of punishment for sins, effectively and basically acting as a get-out-of-hell-free card, and it was in exchange for money. Alright, let's talk about Martin Luther. He was one of the key figures in the Protestant Reformation. He was a German priest who led the charge by questioning the morality of indulgence selling. Specifically, Luther's objection to the indulgences sale became more significant when Pope Leo X wanted to rebuild St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, but did not want to use his considerable wealth to do so. He began offering indulgences in exchange for donations to the Basilica's renovation, which Luther saw as a simple payment for salvation. And mind you, indulgences aren't a new thing. These happened centuries before. But this is the first official indulgence selling. Now in Luther's view, the Church was selling salvation, and poor peasants were giving up their entire life savings to buy indulgences for their dead relatives in the hope of saving them from the torments of purgatory, while the Church became ever richer. This was absolutely unacceptable to Luther, who'd read the Bible and saw no justification for the Church to charge people for their salvation. He believed that the only true path to salvation was through faithfulness to Christ and his teachings. He also challenged the Church's doctrine that the Pope, not the Bible, was the ultimate spiritual authority. So, Luther wrote a list of 95 arguments against indulgences, and nailed his 95 theses to a church door in Germany, specifically Wittenberg, Germany. And with the help of the printing press developed by Johannes Gutenberg, copies of his 95 theses were printed and distributed across Europe. But soon, he was excommunicated from the church by Pope Leo X. And remember, excommunication meant people or entire countries couldn't participate in important religious ceremonies. And he was declared an outlaw by Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. However, Luther had absolutely no intention of breaking away from the church. Instead, he wished to reform it by ending the practice of making money off the business of salvation. Nevertheless, his followers founded the Lutheran Church in Germany, which became the first Protestant church. Additionally, as a side note, many German princes, including Prince Frederick II, support Luther by helping ideas spread. So let's go to 1.4, talking about specifically his teachings. Number 1, salvation is achieved through only faith, not sacraments, ceremonies, or rituals. Number 2, the Bible is the only source of religious truth, not priests or the Pope. Number 3, all Christians should have equal access to the God in the Bible. And it's connected to number 4. The Bible should be available in vernacular, which is a community's language, not just Latin. Number 5, indulgences, confession, pilgrimages, and prayers to saints should be outlawed. Number 6, priests should be permitted to marry. Alright, let's talk about another important figure, John Calvin. So, in a nutshell, John Calvin established Calvinism. He believed that God had already predetermined which people would go to heaven or hell, and that it was not up to the clergy in Rome to decide. Additionally, he believed that trying to make money was not sinful. Moving on to John Huss. He was a Catholic priest from Prague who, like Martin Luther, spoke out against the sale of indulgences by the church. He believed that the church should not be selling indulgences. And in 1415, the Catholic Church declared Huss a heretic, and he was burned at the stake. Both Wycliffe and Huss were declared heretics, with Wycliffe being declared a heretic after his death, and Huss being killed as a result of being heretic. Now, you might be wondering, who's this Wycliffe person? And who's this? What does heretic mean? Well, John Wycliffe was a Roman Catholic priest from England who criticized the church for accumulating wealth and property. He believed that religion and the church should focus on serving God and living simply. Like Luther, he also advocated for translating the Bible into the vernacular, or the native language, so that people could read and understand it for themselves. Wycliffe translated the Bible into English before his death in 1384. However, years after his death, in 1415, the Roman Catholic Church declared him a heretic, and his body was exhumed. His remains were burned, and his ashes were thrown into a river. So a heretic is someone who opposes the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church. So both Wycliffe and Huss were declared heretics, with Wycliffe receiving the title posthumously, like we discussed. Now let's talk about John Knox. John Knox basically just established the Scottish Presbyterian Church. He was a Scottish clergyman who taught that whose teachings had a significant impact on Scotland, leading to the spread of Presbyterianism to other countries. Now let's talk about this behemoth, Henry VIII. So let's talk about his wives and his divorce and his creation of a new church. So Henry VIII wanted to divorce his first wife, who was Catherine of Aragon, because she had not borne him a male heir. This is crucial for kings because they need a heir to take the throne. However, the Pope refused to grant Henry's annulment request. As a result, Henry decided to take matters into his own hands and establish a brand new church called the Church of England. So the main difference between the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of England wasn't that big. It's just that the head of the Church of England was Henry VIII and not the Pope. On a side note, Henry VIII also confiscated the Roman Catholic Church's land in England, and he became even wealthier. He offered some of his newly granted wealth to those in high standing in return for their support. After his divorce, Henry VIII married Anne Boleyn, but did not gain an heir, and was then beheaded. Jane Seymour, his third wife, produced Prince Edward before she died, which we'll get to later. Anne of Cleves, his fourth wife, divorced with him 6 months later. Catherine Howard, his fifth wife, was accused of cheating, and was, just like Anne Boleyn, beheaded. Catherine Parr, his final and sixth wife, died a year after he did. Now let's talk about Prince Edward, and the family known as the Tudors. So King Edward became king at age 9. Edward's advisors helped him pass laws to reform the Church of England and turned it into a Protestant church. And 6 years later, he died from tuberculosis. However, before his death, Edward named his distant cousin, Lady Jane Grey, as his heir. She was not prepared at all. The only reason she was selected was because she was Protestant. Lady Jane Grey was queen for 9 days until she was removed and killed by Mary, the first daughter of Henry VIII. Now, Queen Mary I was a devout Catholic who reversed Protestant reforms and restored England's relation with the Pope and the Roman Catholic Church. And in an attempt to restore Catholicism, Queen Mary I ordered the execution of prominent Protestants, earning her the famous name Bloody Mary. Later, she married King Philip of Spain and died without an heir. After Mary died, Henry's other daughter Elizabeth became queen. Elizabeth I re-established England as a Protestant kingdom. Overall, tensions between both Catholics and Protestants led to the Schmaldic Wars, civil wars in France, and the 30 Years' War. Now let's talk about a branch of Protestants called the Anabaptists. The Anabaptists were a crucial group that rejected infant baptism and instead believed that individuals should be baptized only when they are old enough to understand and choose their religion. This group advocated for communal living and the abolition of private property. The Anabaptists eventually evolved into 4 denominations called the Baptists, Quakers, Mennonites, and the Amish, which all remain prevalent Protestant religions today. So increased fighting between Catholics and Protestants led to the 30 Years' War. So the 30 Years' War was a long and devastating conflict for Europe, resulting in millions of casualties. It caused people to doubt religious authority and led to a brand new way of thinking about government and religion, as well as a rise in individualism and skepticism, which was prevalent in the Reformation, or in the Renaissance. So the Reformation and Renaissance worked hand in hand. Now let's talk about the Counter-Reformation. So the Catholic Church responded to the Reformation with a revival movement called the Counter-Reformation, which included the Council of Trent, a council that condemned Luther's teaching and affirmed that salvation came through faith and good works, but recognized the need for reform to address abuses and corruption. Essentially, the Council of Trent was a group of Catholic officials who meant to address the concerns brought up by the Protestant reformers and revitalize the church. The Jesuits, founded by Ignatius of Loyola, was a Catholic male group within the church who emphasized living simply and missionary work. The Catholic Church also used the Roman Inquisition to punish heretics, which was essentially where testimonies and torture were used to find and punish heretics who spoke out against the church. Galileo Galilei, an astronomer, physicist, mathematician, and philosopher, was condemned by the church for supporting heliocentrism. And despite being a loyal Catholic, he was forced to live under house arrest and in isolation. Let's talk about the result. So there were numerous results of the Reformation. The Reformation was a huge turning point in history that transformed the religious landscape of Europe and had a profound impact on society, culture, and politics. It challenged the established authority of the Roman Catholic Church and empowered common people to question long-standing practices and beliefs. Well, this led to a renewed focus on individual faith and a shift toward the idea of priesthood of all believers, meaning that all people should have direct access to God without the need for intermediaries like priests. As a result of the Reformation, many new Protestant denominations emerged with their own unique beliefs and practices. These new churches provided a greater degree of religious freedom and choice for people, as well as encouraging literacy and education. The Reformation also had significant implications for politics and society, as well as the power of the Roman Catholic Church. The religious conflicts that ensued resulted in wars, persecution, and the displacement of people, but also led to the eventual establishment of greater religious tolerance and the separation of church and state. Overall, the Reformation was a complex and multifaceted movement that transformed the religious, social, and political landscape of Europe and paved the way for many of the beliefs and values that are still prevalent in Western society today. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it useful and informative. Have a good day.